Now, let's talk about what really sets Factory B apart: culture. Because the truth is, technology can only take you so far. You can have the best data tools in the world, but if your organization isn't built on a culture that values and embraces data, it's like trying to run a race with one leg tied behind your back. Factory B understood this. They didn't just roll out new systems and dashboards, they actively fostered a data-driven culture. What does that mean? It means that decisions at every level of the organization were based on data, not intuition or gut feelings. Leaders became role models, using data to guide their strategies and showing employees that the numbers weren't just there to look pretty, they were there to make an impact. But it wasn't just about leadership. Factory B also prioritized encouraging knowledge sharing. And let's be honest, this doesn't come naturally to most organizations. Teams love their silos. They love their secret sauce, but Factory B broke those barriers down. They created incentives for employees to collaborate, whether it was through cross-functional projects, suggestion programs, or even simple recognition for sharing insights. They made it clear that knowledge isn't power unless it's shared. Here's an example. In Factory A, if a production line manager notices a recurring issue, they might keep it to themselves or, at best, escalate it to a supervisor. In Factory B, that same manager is part of a culture where they're encouraged and expected to share their findings with other teams. Maybe the issue isn't isolated to one line. Maybe it's a broader trend that could save the company millions if addressed. That's the power of a culture built on collaboration. But Factory B didn't stop there. They actively involved employees in the democratization process itself. They didn't just tell people, here's the data, good luck. They created forums for cross-functional collaboration, bringing in diverse perspectives to solve problems. Because when you combine different viewpoints, you often uncover solutions that a single team might never have considered. Compare this to Factory A, where leadership talked about being data-driven but rarely practiced it. Teams operated in silos, and employees were reluctant to share information for fear of being judged or ignored. Decisions were still made based on instinct, and the potential of their data was left untapped. The lesson here is clear. Data democratization isn't just a technical shift, it's a cultural one. It requires leaders to lead by example, employees to share and collaborate, and organizations to embrace change as an opportunity, not a threat. So, as you think about your own organization, ask yourself, are you fostering a culture where data is valued, shared, and acted upon? Or are you still relying on outdated habits and hierarchies? Because in the world of Industry 4.0, culture isn't just a nice to have, it's the glue that holds everything together. Let's move forward and dive into how we can equip employees with the skills they need to thrive in this culture. All right, so now we know that technology and culture are two big pieces of the puzzle, but let's not forget the most important factor, the people. Because even in Factory B, the shining star of data democratization, none of this would work without employees who had the skills and confidence to use the tools at their disposal. Let's break this down with what we'll call the 3 pillars of employee capability. The first pillar? IT competencies. At Factory B, employees weren't just trained to use a dashboard, they were taught to understand the systems behind it. This doesn't mean every operator became a programmer overnight, but they had a solid grasp of how the technology worked, so they weren't intimidated by it. In contrast, over 59% of employees in most companies can only handle the basic functions of IT systems. They can run a report but can't customize it or dig deeper into the data, and only about 28% truly understand how those systems connect and function, leaving a massive gap in capability. Factory B bridged that gap with ongoing training, ensuring employees weren't just users, they were collaborators with the technology. Now, the second pillar, data utilization skills. This is where Factory B truly shined. They embraced the idea of creating citizen analysts, employees who weren't traditional data scientists, but could still use self-service analytics tools to get the insights they needed. The key here was empowerment. Factory B didn't just dump data on employees and expect them to figure it out. They taught them how to analyze, interpret, and act on it. At Factory A, by contrast, fewer than 4% of employees had the skills to use data beyond the basics. The rest stuck waiting for reports or help from IT. Here's the magic of what Factory B did. By teaching employees to navigate structured, consistent data independently, they freed up their IT team for more strategic work, while giving frontline employees the power to solve problems in real time. That's how you turn data from a bottleneck into an accelerator. And finally, we have the third pillar, interdisciplinary skills. This might be the most overlooked part of data democratization. At Factory B, employees weren't just focused on their individual tasks, they were trained to understand how their work connected to the bigger picture. Over 61% of their workforce was aware of how neighboring processes worked, and they factored that knowledge into their decisions. This cross-functional awareness created collaboration opportunities that most companies only dream of. Meanwhile, Factory A? Their teams worked in silos, rarely considering how their actions impacted others. Only 10% of their workforce actively engaged in interdisciplinary problem solving. Now think about what happens in a crisis when employees lack these capabilities. At Factory A, the signs of an impending issue were there, but no one could piece them together. The IT team was too busy handling basic requests, and employees on the ground didn't know how to interpret the data in front of them. At Factory B, those same employees caught the problem early because they had the skills to see what was happening, understand the broader context, and act decisively. So, the question for your organization is this: are you equipping your employees to thrive in a world of data-driven decision-making, or are you leaving them behind? Because at the end of the day, technology and culture mean nothing without a workforce that's ready to use them. Let's move on to explore the technological infrastructure that supports this transformation. We've talked about culture, we've talked about skills, but here's the question that really brings it all together. Do you have the technological infrastructure to make data democratization work? Because let's face it, even the most motivated employees and collaborative culture can only go so far if the tools they're using belong in a museum. Factory B understood this. They knew that data quality and accessibility were non-negotiable. Without high-quality data, even the smartest systems and the most talented employees are operating in the dark. So, they implemented automated data collection systems to ensure their data wasn't just accurate, it was timely, consistent, and always available. Compare that to Factory A, where over 75% of their data didn't meet basic standards. Data was redundant, incomplete, and often just plain wrong, creating a mess that no one wanted to deal with. But it wasn't just about the quality of the data, it was about how that data was shared. Factory B invested in collaborative IT systems that allowed teams across the organization to access and use data seamlessly. Think about that for a second. Instead of emailing spreadsheets back and forth or debating whose version of the numbers was correct, employees at Factory B worked from a single source of truth. Collaboration became second nature because the tools they used made it easy. At Factory A, meanwhile, only 2.26% of their internal systems were truly collaborative. The rest? Disconnected silos that did more to confuse than to clarify. Let's talk about integrated data models, another area where Factory B thrived. They built systems that combine data from across the organization: production, supply chain, customer service, you name it. This holistic approach meant they could spot patterns and trends that others missed. In contrast, Factory A's fragmented systems meant decisions were made in isolation, with teams only seeing a small piece of the puzzle. The result? Slow responses, missed opportunities, and a lot of finger pointing. But here's the key. All of this technology was designed with one goal in mind: empowering people. The tools weren't just for the IT team or senior management, they were built to be accessible to everyone, because Factory B understood that democratizing data isn't just about making it available, it's about making it usable. The infrastructure was intuitive, scalable, and adaptable, ensuring that as their business grew, their systems grew with them. Factory A, on the other hand, treated technology like a band-aid. They implemented flashy tools without addressing the underlying issues of accessibility and integration. The result? A lot of expensive systems that no one really used and employees who were just as frustrated as before. So here's the question for you. Does your technological infrastructure help your employees act on data, or does it just create more hurdles? Are your systems empowering collaboration and decision-making, or are they slowing you down? The right infrastructure is the foundation of data democratization. It ensures that high-quality data is accessible to everyone, that teams can collaborate seamlessly, and that insights can be turned into action. As we move forward, let's look at how organizations can prepare for the future of data democratization and the trends shaping what's next.